My life is but a weaving between my Lord and me. I cannot choose the colors, he worketh steadily. Oft times he weaveth sorrow, and I in foolish pride forget he sees the upper, but I the underside. Not till the loom is silent and the shuttles cease to fly shall God unroll the canvas and explain the reason why. The dark threads are as needful in the weaver's skillful hand as threads of gold and silver in the pattern he has planned.
I'm Barbara Leader, and you're watching Cable 10 Community Television, a division of the Frankfort Electric and Water Plant Board. Today on Traditional Kentucky Crafts, we're with Miss Sarah Pulliam, who does weaving. Tell us all about your craft.
Well, I went to school at Berea, and I learned to weave while I was in school there. And then when I came home, I bought me a different loom, and it's just something that I enjoy doing. And of course, I don't know what else to say.
Well, tell me how you got interested in it initially. What made you want to learn to weave?
Well, I had to, it was one of my class pieces when I went to school at Berea, and they taught me how to set up a loom and how to thread it, and then how to hem the pieces, or else, like on this rug, how to tie the fringe on the rug, and I learned all of that while I was in school. And then when I came home, it was such a nice hobby, I decided to get a loom and keep it up.
So how long have you been weaving?
How long have I been weaving? Since about, from about 36 on. When I went to school, it was in 36 and 37, 38.
Do you sell your weaving?
Yes, sometimes I do, and I give it away. I have a large family, and nieces and nephews are always getting married or something, or having a birthday, and they usually get a rug or some placemats or a pillow top or something like that.
Well, you've entered some contest with your rugs, correct?
Yes, I have, through the homemakers. And this rug went to the University of Kentucky last week for oh, wait a minute now, what is it called?
The cultural arts?
Culture Arts exhibit, for the KEHA, from the whole state. And this rug won a first ribbon, and then they went back and gave me a big congratulation purple ribbon because it was made so nicely.
That's a really nice honor. Tell me about your first rug. Do you remember what it was like?
Not exactly. It didn't last too long because it wasn't made out of rags like this. It was made out of rug yarn. It was just regular yarn like you would crochet with or knit with, but it was bigger around, almost big around as your finger, and it didn't last too long.
Well, tell me what you make these rugs out of and your placemats and things now.
Okay, I used to make them out of scraps of material that people would give me. And now, people don't sew like they used to. They don't have the regular nice cottons like they used to have. So I go up to Washington. That's up just this side of Maysville, to that little city that's there, a little town that they've done over. And I buy my rags there, and I buy my warp there. And then I come home, and then I cut it and fix the colors like I want them.
How much time is involved in making each type of thing that you do?
I wouldn't know because sometimes I maybe work an hour or two, and then I'll maybe quit and won't pick it up anymore for maybe a couple of days. And I wouldn't have any idea.
Well, tell me about your special shuttles that you use.
Oh, the special ones? Well, I have 3 that I use on my little loom that a brother-in-law made for me out of a piece of cedar that he whittled them out with a hand knife. And
why did he make those for you?
Because I didn't like the bigger ones to use on the little loom, and so I asked him one day if he could make me a smaller shuttle, and that would fit the loom, and so he made me 3. First, I'm going to show you how I cut and sew my material together to make my placemats are a big rug. And a lot of times I have just scraps of material that people have given me, different colors, and I get my colors all arranged. Then on my scissors, I have a little gauge on my scissors, and I want to cut all of my strips a uniform width. And Can you see this? Let me stand up. Can you see?
Yes,
Okay, now I'm cutting the strips, and they should be on the straight of the material, because on the bias they would stretch a little bit as you weave. And I use a couple of different colors. Here's a little piece of green. This is time consuming. A lot of times I'll get my rags and I'll go out on the front porch and sit out there and cut, and I have several sacks, paper sacks, and I'll put each color in a different paper sack. Now I've got, just say I've got a whole lot cut up. Now I'm going to show you how I sew them on the sewing machine. We used to sew them by hand, but it's much quicker to do it on the sewing machine. And the pieces are stouter; they won't come apart. Now I lay the two right sides together like this, and then I put them under the sewing machine and sew at an angle across them. And then I take and bring it. I don't cut them off yet. I'll have a whole enough to do one whole ball, and I'll sew up the whole ball, enough of the whole ball like this. Then I'll just have a whole string of them down here. Then I cut these off and cut them apart and cut the little end off that's across there, and when you open them out, that's the way they look. And then I'll take and roll them up in a ball. Should I stand up or not? Okay. Roll them up in a ball like this. And then when I get through, I'll have a nice little ball, and this will make one placemat. Okay? And this is the placemat already finished. This is what one of these balls is in this placemat. And then I hem them on the sewing machine. I do not make a fringe on them like I do on my rugs, because these are washed oftener than a rug is, and the fringe soon wears out, so I hem them. This little loom came from Lou Tate, and a lot of you people probably know Lou Tate, that had a little loom house in Louisville. And this is a little table loom, but you can do a lot with a small loom. I have put up 20 yards of warp on the beam back here, and I brought, can you see this? There's two sets of heddles. Here's the back one and the front one, and each thread is brought up through the first heddle, and then one on the back row of heddles, and you have to do that all the way through until you get, I've got 14 inches through here. If you put the thread on your heddles, then it has to come through this little sleigh. This sleigh has little slots in it, and one thread goes through each slot all the way across, and then it's tied to a beam up front here. And I've already woven one placemat on here, and I've got half of another one done. So now I'm going to weave just a little bit, and I've got two treadles down here, and when I'm have my shuttle on the right hand side, I'm using the right treadle. So I'm coming across. And what this does, this makes a shed. Later on where you can see the shed. And then you pull down and change the treadles, put over on the left, because you're coming back this way. You have to be kind of hard. You put the shuttle through. You have to be careful and keep all the edges even. Don't let one thread stick way out. Children come and weave on it, and they make a mess of it sometimes. But I really haven't taught any of them in the family to weave. I'm using the shuttles that I told you earlier about my brother-in-law whittling out a piece of cedar. And you can see how nice that the rags fit on the shuttles. Makes it much easier to put through the slate. Now I've got to get some more warp down. I've used up all this warp, so I have to let up on this a little bit and let some warp out back here. Then you tighten your loom back up. Now I'm ready to go on weaving. This placemat is woven 19.5 inches long.
Now that we've actually seen Miss Pulliam do some weaving, we've found out that this is a special technique here that you've developed, putting the material together yourself. Tell us about that.
Yes. Well, the old-time people, they tore the rags most of the time. They didn't have a nice little thing like I have. And then they just lap them over like this and fold them down. And then you put a knot in your needle and thread, and then you started here and took 2 or 3 stitches, and then you'd go along, and then you would take 2 or 3 more stitches at the end. But when you wove this, this made if the material was heavy, you made a knot there. And I didn't care for that knot there, and so that's the reason why that I developed my own technique of sewing them like I do on the sewing machine and clipping it off. And then when you fold this over, right, you don't have the seam all in one place. Part of it is here and part of it is here.
So it makes it a lot thinner and a lot smoother on top of the placemat.
Right. Now the big rugs, I cut them a little bit wider, and this is some polyester material I had that I'm making a rug out of this, and it is cut a little bit wider.
Do you prefer to make the rugs out of the cotton?
Yes, I like the cotton the best, and other people do too, because this is a little bit springy, and you don't want anything in your cotton rugs that will that's cut on the bias, because it stretches and it doesn't make a pretty rug, and you don't put any knits or anything in with cottons, because sometimes it'll draw back a little bit, and you don't want that in your rug.
Well, tell me about the balls. How do you know how much to roll up on there?
I just go upstairs and take one of my spare bedrooms, and I put my colors all out on the floor that are already cut, and I pick out some colors, and I sew until I feel like I've got enough for a rug, and sometimes it come out 50 inches, and sometimes 48, and sometimes 60, unless somebody wants an extra long rug, but then I'll be sure that I have enough that I can add to it to make it all the same.
Well, do you have to have it all balled up there before you actually start weaving?
Yes, you should, because, because it weaves better, because you don't want to weave. The reason why, when you roll them up, it just automatically will crease here, and you have all your sides are the same. But if you didn't roll it up like that, well, you might come up with a pretty piece like this, and it's woven on the wrong side, and that's not as pretty as this side is. And this was my own thing, too, was to... Somebody says that I iron it with an iron, but I don't do it. I just start a little ball, and
that holds it tight enough to press itself.
And it just presses itself as you go along. It just automatically will fold as you go along.
Do you like to teach people how to do this?
Yes, I do. It's fun to show people how to do this. But nobody has a loom that benefits by this.
So people come to see you to do it then?
Right, Sometimes I let people come and weave on my big loom downstairs, on the big rug loom that makes rugs like that.
Well, you were involved in Expo a couple of years ago, is that correct?
Yes, I was, I took the little loom down and wove placemats, and I had some rugs there that I could sell, and then I made some pillows. This is made just like the big rug, and then I just folded it over, and if this was opened out, it would be as wide as the rug is.
Okay, Okay, well, tell me, you weave with different types of materials also, correct, with thread?
Yes, we make little bookmarks on another loom, just like I use for the placemats. Only I just put up about this is about 15 threads, and then you weave real narrow, and then you have to sew it at each end to keep it from unraveling. This is a little bookmark. hmm And the children come, and they have a little project at school, and so some of the little great nieces or nephews come say, I need something for school, for show and tell, and they'll weave a little bookmark. And I've taken the little loom down to church. We've had a craft day several different times now, and I'll set it up like for the bookmarks, and all the children get to weave on it. If they make mistakes, why, that's all right, because that's theirs. And they all thrilled to death about it. And then I'll bring them home, cut them off, and hem them, and they have their name on them, a little piece of paper so they'll know which bookmark is theirs. And they love that.
Well, tell me how you keep weaving. Is it something that you just always want to keep doing?
Yes, yeah. But I get busy, and I just don't bother with it sometimes for 2 or 3 weeks, and then I'll think, I believe I'll do a little weaving. I always keep some warp on the loom, and so I take a notion I'm going to make a rug, well, then I'll just go make it.
We've got another special treat today. Miss Sarah's taken us into her kitchen to teach us how to make beaten biscuits, which is a really traditional Kentucky craft. Tell me, how did beaten biscuits come about? What are they?
Well, you had them in the olden days, really, and the slaves, the cooks and all in the kitchen, would make them every morning for their master and his wife to have them at breakfast time, and they were a delicacy.
Well, they're a little different than traditional biscuits because they're hard, huh?
Yes, It's the amount of shortening and flour that you have in them that makes them like that, and by rolling them through the machine, and it lets you have different layers.
Well, tell me about your machine. What is it, how does it work, and where did you get it?
Well, it's called a beaten biscuit machine, although you don't beat the biscuits. You roll them through this wringer. It just looks like a wash machine wringer that the old-timey people had. And when I was at school at Brio, they made them up there, and I was very fond of them. And they weren't made here in Frankfort very often. At least I didn't know it. And my mother was crazy about them, and we had a woman at Bridgeport that used to make them, Miss Emily Harrod, and we would get them from her. And so that got to be a chore, just going to her house and getting them and things like that. And so I called this woman out on Lawrenceburg Road, Mrs. Aaron, and she said yes, that she had one that was for sale. And I said, oh, don't sell it until I look at it. And so my husband and I went out and looked at it, and it was in a terrible shape, but we bought it from her, paid $35 for it, and they are worth much more than that now. And we brought it home, and he cleaned it up, and we got our recipe from a lady that belonged to my church, and she gave me her recipe. And so we just started making them, and you have to learn how to do it. The first few, I think they weren't too good, but they were eatable. We ate them anyhow.
Well, tell me how old you think the machine is.
I know it's over 100 years old, because on the bottom of it, it has the Stagg name on it. And I knew Mrs. Stagg, and it belonged to her. And at some time or another, when they broke up housekeeping, or when the older people died, they had sold the machine, I guess, to Mrs. Aaron. And that's the reason why I think so much of it, because I know where it came from. But I don't know how many years she had it. But I've had it 30 years, so it's an old machine.
Are they pretty hard to find?
Yes, they are. Once in a while, you can find them. Yeah. But they don't want to give them up, even though they're not using them anymore. They still don't want to give up the machine.
Well, tell me, there's a certain etiquette to how they can't have the corners cut off. And
well, if you're selling them, you don't want the corners cut off like this one. She's got the corner cut off, and this one makes a nice, pretty biscuit. And you don't want them too brown. And this is a real nice biscuit.
What do they taste like?
They don't taste like regular biscuit, and they don't taste like pie dough. A lot of people don't like them because they are hard. but they're very good when you open them up and put either ham on them or jelly or whatever that you want to on them. They're good just by themselves.
Do you remember the first time you had beaten biscuits?
No, I really don't. But I like them.
So how many years did you say it had been since you'd been making beaten biscuits?
I say about 30 years.
Well, tell us what your number one tip is to help a beginner get started if they were going to try to make beaten biscuits. What do you suggest?
To have one of the machines. That's the main thing. And, well, you just have, the first few times that you mix them up now, they won't be too good. You have a knack about kneading the dough. And it has to be just so you can tell.
Well, tell me how to make them.
How
Give
to
me
make
the
'em?
recipe.
Yes.
And tell me the process to go through.
All right. You use 6 cups of flour, and then you put a teaspoon of salt in the flour, and a teaspoon of baking powder, and 3 tablespoons of sugar. And you put that in your sifter, and then sift it into a big bowl. And then you add 1 cup of lard, and you work that in with your hand, with your fingers. And, there's a big fork or something you can use, but I always just do it with my fingers. It's easier that way. And then you make a little hole and put your cup of lard in. Oh, you got your cup of lard in. And then you add a 1/4 a cup of milk, and then you fill your cup the rest of the way full of water. And then you get into that and mix it up with both hands. It's a stiff dough when you're through with it. And you can't very well use a biscuit machine that they have out now that you can beat up your biscuits in. You can't use that because this dough has to be stiffer than that. And then you put it on your board and roll it out. Somebody has to turn what I call the crank, and has to turn the roller. And
How many times does it have to go through the roller, and what do you do when it comes through?
I used to roll it. Somebody would roll it through once, and then I would fold it and roll it through again. I would fold it. We used to count them, and about 50 times, but I don't do that anymore. I can tell when it gets nice and satiny and spreads out over the whole board. And then you have your cutter, and this is a regular beaten biscuit cutter, but it is metal, and my machine has a marble top on it. And this would make, when you cut the biscuits, this made some black marks. And so my husband took a plastic glass and cut the bottom out of it and tapered it for me. And so that's what I use, is a plastic glass, and it doesn't, and this makes a little ridge all around them, but these others are, okay.
Well,
and then you stick them with a fork 3 times. This is ready to go into the oven. And you have to go all the way through and touch the board, the pan. If you don't, why, they will have air bubbles in them. And then they're cooked 40 minutes, and mine cooked 40 minutes in a 40-degree oven. Now, all ovens aren't the same. Most of the time, people say around 35 degrees. I'm fixing 6 cups of flour in my sifter. I know how far up here to make it, so. Julia had plenty for this batch. And I'm going to put a little bit out into here. Now I'm going to put 3 tablespoons of sugar in, only not quite 3 because we let up on our sugar. Just say 3 tablespoons of sugar. Teaspoon of baking powder. Teaspoon of salt. Ooh, I could have had my lard already measured out, I'm sorry. Give her a bit of my flour. And I'm going to use a cup. Drew, you want to put some milk in this for me? You can come over. A cup of Crisco. Just come on up. That's fine. Well, we used to use lard. The old-timey people use lard. But lard is bad for your cholesterol. So we've learned to use Crisco. This is a cup of Crisco. When that oven goes off, put that thing in and set it for 20 minutes. Okay. Then I mix this up with my hand. Can you see it?
Explain to me what you're doing, Miss.
This is called, well, this is beating it, but you're rolling it through a wringer. Come on, a little bit more.
Tell her they used to be.
They used to beat them with the rolling pin. The old timey people did beat it with the rolling pin, or else with the plate, edge of a plate.
Mother always would beat hers with the edge of the plate.
And you had this, and you'd beat it, and then you'd fold it and beat it. But now they came up with these newfangled things. Okay, this way. Now then I'm gonna, can you see him turning it? Okay, then in a minute we're gonna change over and let Kyle do the turning. Then, okay, now let Kyle do it. Okay, the other way. And then we're gonna let Angel your turn, and then we're gonna give it to Ronnie. Okay, come back. We roll it through until it gets real it gets heavy. I mean, it's hard to turn, and this will spread out more.
There you go.
But after we start rolling it out, we can't miss.
Okay, I remember that. Take a little knife here and start breaking them open, put just a little layer of butter on them, if you want butter or whatever.
Are the hams in the refrigerator?
Barbara, the Kentucky country ham is supposed to be what you serve on, but my favorite is grape jelly.
Are you taking it?
Yes, ma'am. Beating biscuits can be quite a family project, as we've seen here today. You've had all kind of kids working with you and people of all ages.
Right.
And it's just really been a great time, and I've enjoyed it. I've never eaten beaten biscuits before. Today was the first time I've tried them, but I want to see if I can crack one open here on TV. I'm still not real good at this. Okay, you take the knife and put it in the side, and you push.
Oh.
And it splits right open.
Yeah.
Okay, now let me put a little bit of country ham on it. And take a bite.
Good.
Thank you, Miss Sarah. This is great. You're a wonderful cook.
Thank you.